My name's Herschel Faber. I am the director and producer of Ethan Bloom, feature-length film, which is making its Texas premiere at the Austin Film Festival.
Gotcha. Can you tell us a little bit more about the film? Just a quick brief of it.
Yeah, here's the quick synopsis. So Ethan Bloom follows the story of Ethan Bloomfield, a 13-year-old kid who's recently lost his mother. And Ethan, who's in the middle of a spiritual identity crisis, sets out to become a Catholic, even though he's Jewish, his family is Jewish. His father's pushing him to go through with his bar mitzvah. So the story is not just about faith and religion, but it's also about Ethan's coming of age, about him dealing with the loss of his mother, and also, the trials and tribulations that go along with discovering your first love. So it's a coming of age film set in the backdrop of faith and religion and all of that.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then last night you guys had a great screening, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate
house.
you guys coming.
Yeah, of course. Really good movie too. I think the audience enjoyed it based off of the Q&A after the screening.
Yeah.
And your writer, Mylene Dominguez, right? She's not with us here today.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of went back and forth, right, with this process. Can you talk about how the journey started with the script with Mylene, and then you hopping on, and then going back and forth over the years?
Yeah. So I was the chair at the time. This is, I want to say, around 2019. I was the chair of filmmaking at the New York Film Academy in Miami, which is a school for filmmakers. And the dean, my boss, happened to be Mylene Dominguez, who is the screenwriter and my producing partner on the film. And at the time, because she was my boss, she was like, Hirsch, I just wrote this script, and I want you to take a look at it and give me notes. Now, anytime you give someone notes on a script, you have to sometimes use kid gloves in terms of doing that. So I kind of kept putting it off, because who wants to say something negative about something that your boss has written? So I kept putting it off, and finally I couldn't avoid it anymore. I started reading the script, and lo and behold, I just fell absolutely head over heels in love with the character. I identified with Ethan's journey, and I went into work and I said, Mylene, I want to direct this movie. And she said, how about we co-direct? And I was like, no. I want to direct this movie. This kid is me. So she graciously relented, allowed that to happen. The two of us started the process of going down the lengthy path of trying to get the movie made. We went through different sort of iterations of finding the money. We had producers who were interested in Miami initially, and then COVID happened. We'd shot a sizzle reel as proof of concept, which I recommend anyone doing if you're trying to get your features or even your shorts made. Go out, use the resources you have, and create something that is a visual representation of what it is the story you're trying to tell. And so Mylene and I, we got a little waylaid by COVID, like most people, and then we came out of COVID, and we had some producers in Hollywood who wanted to go down and do the Netflix route and the Amazon, try and set it up with a streamer. And I was game for that, but it proved to be a really exhausting process in the sense that the studios and now the streamers, I feel like this film was a little too small budget-wise for them. And so we got a couple passes, but you can't, when someone says no, that's when you say yes to yourself. And you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So we looked at each other, and Mylene and I were like, let's just make this movie. Let's raise the money and do it. So we went out, we had some fundraisers, and we spent a good year of our lives raising the money for the film. And then we were off to the races, and that's kind of how it happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then after you guys went through the fundraising route, how much longer did it take to set up scheduling, shooting, and all that, finding your locations?
So I had already did a preliminary schedule and budget for the film, so I knew exactly what it was going to cost to make. There were some intangibles that you can never quite know, actors and things like that. But the key thing that helped us get the money was we had actor attachments. I work with a casting director who's fantastic, who's done a lot of stuff in LA. His name's John Levy. He's like the godfather of modern TV casting. He's done shows like ER, The West Wing, Shameless, which you've probably seen, among others. And he was a huge proponent and fan of the film. And But no, working with Hank Greenfield and Caroline Valencia, who play the two leads in the film, was gratifying, so gratifying, because some of the things they do in the movie you just can't teach. As writers, as directors, casting is where it happens. The screenplay is as good as the screenplay is going to be, and we rely on actors to come in and just elevate the material, to find the laughs between the laughs, the tears between the tears, and to do those sort of intangible, intuitive things that allow audiences to really emotionally invest in the characters and their relationship and their journey. And Hank and Caroline are both so good at finding those little moments and making the characters their own. And it was kind of magical to watch, honestly.
Agreed. Both of them, I think, really encapsulate just that teenage angst, if that makes sense.
Angst.
Yeah, especially Hank more so. I really, after the first 20 minutes of film, I was like, wow, this kid is an awkward teenager.
Yeah, and that's how sorry, Hank, if you're watching. He's a little, I don't want to say he's awkward, but he's unusual and precocious in the sense that he is such a deep thinker, very much like Ethan's character. Less so on the spiritual side, and maybe more so just in terms of the way he analyzes the world around him, the way he thinks about the world. He's very observant. He was the kind of kid who, I think, who knew everyone's lines. And, he had this, I would talk to him about his process, and he would have long speeches and monologues in the movie. And he would nail it word for word 6-7 times over and over. There's a scene in the end where he has to deliver a speech, not to give away the ending, at his bar mitzvah. And we were like, hey, do you need sides, to remind yourself? He's like, I got it. And so he just kept doing it from memory. But you got the sense that it was just coming from who he was as a person. And that's the mark of a really great actor.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. And Caroline was the same, she just did these things that were so unique to who she is as a person. She brought her personality to it, but was able to also transcend that by coming up with things that were just so uniquely Camille, the character's name, that added an authenticity to the movie and to her character. So,
and with the rest of the cast, with Ethan's father, Gary, I believe.
Yeah, Gary. Josh Molina. Amazing actor.
And this is just a side note, with Gary and Ethan's characters, were you looking for also Jewish actors to fill these roles? We were, and like you mentioned right now, you identify as a Jewish person. And you also said you saw yourself a little bit in Hank too. Is this kind of duality, living in the United States, it's a melting pot of cultures. So when you have Christianity and Catholicism so prevalent, but then you also have so many other religions too, including Judaism. Yeah. Is that something that was part of your upbringing as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, and that's one of the reasons why I identified with his journey. My mother was raised Lutheran, and so one half of my family, they were from Pennsylvania Dutch country, and they were they were Lutherans and celebrated Christmas and all the Christian holidays. And on my father's side, I called them the South Beach Jews. They were very culturally Jewish and religiously Jewish. My dad went to the Hebrew Academy as a kid, and so I was bar mitzvahed and confirmed. My mom converted to Judaism, very much like actually the writer Mylin, who wrote the script. She converted to Judaism. She grew up Catholic and married a Jewish man and converted to Judaism. My mom converted to Judaism, sort of the reverse of that. I didn't find out till I was 40 years old that I actually went through the conversion process as well as a baby. I didn't know. They just raised me Jewish. I was confirmed. I went to Hebrew school. I did all that sort of stuff. And so it was kind of like a revelation to me. Not that it changed the way I saw my own religion, but I was like, why would you keep that from me? It's like, but so yeah, it was very important. And then I married my beautiful wife, who was also in the film, Davani Faber. She plays the teacher in the film, Miss Callie. She's Episcopalian. So it's like there's this cycle of everyone kind of marrying people outside of their religion, which is, as you stated really so eloquently, it's a common thing. We are in a melting pot, not just of culture, but also of religion. And it's very topical. And how do families mesh, and how do relationships, continue to thrive when there are religious differences? And are those differences really important enough to divide us? So those were some of the things thematically we also wanted to play with in the movie. So yeah, I feel
how all the characters connect in the end.
Mm-hmm.
They all sort of reach a kumbaya by the end of it. Spoiler alert.
Cut that. Okay.
Do you hope that people will resonate with this movie when they watch it? Do you hope that it'll hit home for them, despite whatever they might believe in or what occupation they're in?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love most about the movie is that it brings us together. And when people watch things in their homes and they go to the movie theater, a lot of what we're seeing these days is just so negative and so cynical about the world around us. And like, we have to be ultra edgy as filmmakers, or we have to redefine the way stories are told. But sometimes I think we lose sight of our humanity also as filmmakers. And that's one of the things about this film and the script that really drew me to it, is that it's such a human story. It brings us together rather than divides us. And it sort of, my goal is never to teach anything, and definitely not to put a message in anything. But if there was something to be extracted from it, I mean, Ethan even says it, is that the idea that we're all members of, kind of the same tribe, and that we should celebrate each other's differences. That's what makes the world great. And so I was drawn to the project for those themes that were there. And yeah, I hope that they say the hardest thing to do is to make someone laugh and make them cry, right? I don't know if did you cry?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. It's good. It's good to cry sometimes, right? And this film does that, I think. It makes you laugh, makes you cry. And I think the experience of watching in the theater, and I think we are going to be in theaters with this film. Spoiler alert. News to come, hopefully soon. And what I'm excited about is the idea that this will be in theaters and that people will be able to watch it together. Because the experience of watching a movie, on your iPhone or on your iPad or at home alone on your big screen is entirely different than being in a theater and having this like communal experience. And I know theaters are suffering these days. And, I hope movies like this bring audiences back to remind them that, hey, this is why we go to the movies, to have these communal experiences and to feel something, not just alone, but together, to remind us that we're not all in it alone. And that was one of my goals with this particular film, is to create that kind of.
With the rest of the production, was there any moment you found challenging? What was the most challenging part of this production?
There were a couple challenges. The biggest challenge were the 10-hour days. I'm used to a 12-hour day. 10 hours is, and not even a full 10, because it was really more like 8.5 because of child labor laws. So we were running and gunning a lot of the time. There were certain scenes that magically turned out to be some of my favorite scenes that I thought were not going to be as good because I didn't feel like I had all the time I needed. But just, I think really because of the amazing performances of my cast, it sort of saved those scenes. And some of them became my favorite scenes, interestingly enough. So that was a challenge. The other challenge, interestingly enough, was the weather. We shot during the summer in Florida, which is a tough thing to do. I don't recommend it for everyone. There are benefits to doing it. Rentals are cheaper. Crew is more willing to work for a slightly lower rate. Especially if you're making an indie film, that can be important. And you want to see every dollar on the screen, right? So we were smart enough to shoot all of our exteriors first during the sunny days. And once we hit June, those afternoon rainstorms started rolling in. And we had a good 2 weeks straight of rain.
I want to talk to you about the boat scene too. That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. Okay, talk to me about it.
Just, I'm assuming that was more of a run and gun, essential crew.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. It looked like you guys had fun though.
It was. We had a blast on that particular day. And, I talked about stars aligning for the making of your film and looking for the signs. And I don't want to get too metaphysical about it all. But I would say that during those 2 weeks where I just mentioned that we had rain, there was one day on the schedule, which was our boat day. And obviously you can't shoot that if it's raining. And magically on the day that we were set to shoot, I'd written Mylin and I both had written this scene where they go to the boat and lo and behold, it's raining. So they spend the day like playing ping pong at the yacht club and whatever. And I was like, God, I hope we don't have to shoot this scene like that. And magically that day, for some reason, like the clouds went away and we had just an amazingly beautiful.
You mentioned having favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess this was one of them.
I love that sequence. I don't want to give away too much. My favorite sequence in the movie is probably Mylin's favorite. Both of ours is there's a scene where the kids go to the dance and they wind up eating some candy that Camille has stolen, and it turns out to be she's stolen it from her older sister, and some of the candy is pot gummies. And so they have this experience at the dance. And it's really, I think, just a really charming sequence. I love that sequence. And then obviously everything, I love the ending of the movie. I have my favorites as a director for different reasons. But I would say that dance sequence for me stands out as my favorite. Yeah.
Was there something about it?
It's just so, I don't want to give away all the secrets, but it's just so real. These two kids connecting on an emotional level and sharing in something that I won't give away that is so pure and innocent. But I don't think, and it was the way we captured it on camera is so raw and real for me. I mean, I just identify what they're going through in that, and I'm more invested in that moment than maybe at any other moment in the movie. And then his experience after the dance and going and talking to his mom, and who's no longer alive, and having that experience of sharing the evening that he wishes she had been able to, hear about in the flesh. So I think that sequence is my favorite, probably. But there are a lot. I have a lot of favorites, which I think is a testament to how good the film is. I'm very proud of it.
100%. You definitely should be, yeah.
Thanks.
With Ethan Bloom, you're dealing with so many things. It covers up so many different topics in the film, and it's hard to say it's about this or religion or about grief or connection or any of that. What do you think Ethan Bloom's main journey is in the character?
Well, you said it very astutely, and that is, it is about a lot of things. There's a lot of coming of age journeys. It's not usually just one thing. It's about characters that are dealing with lots of conflict in their life, coming at them from different angles, right? And Ethan's got that. I think his main source of conflict and what sends him on his spiritual quest, obviously, is the fact that he's lost his mom. And ultimately, for him, it's about the acceptance of that, of her not being there in the flesh anymore. And the realization that she always is there, spiritually. And that his relationship with her will continue to persist. But it's about learning to deal with grief in a way, but it's also learning to, the other things, other elements, about finding the first love and it's about tolerance, and it's about, so many things. But I think grief is the driving force behind it, the dealing of grief. And it makes it really something that people can empathize and sympathize with all in one.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's definitely a beautiful film, in all.
Thank you.
And I know you mentioned you can't say too much about distribution right now.
Yeah.
But hopefully that will be coming where audiences can enjoy it everywhere.
We're going to be, I'm 100% sure at this point, we're going to be coming to theaters at some point. Not sure the exact dates, but we have a distributor, and we are very excited. And I know the distributor is going to be, they'll be making announcements in the press and the Hollywood Reporter and Variety. So I'm not going to give it away here, but just know that I think Ethan Bloom is going to be in theaters, and I'm really excited about it because I think, the idea of audiences getting together and having that communal experience is really, as a filmmaker, the main reason why I made the film. Yeah.
You said it best.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think that about sums up our questions for Ethan Bloom today. Thank you, Herschel.
Just kidding. That was fun. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
And best of luck to you all. I can't wait to see your films.
Thank you.
Thanks.